Chapter 19. The Last Days of Saigon, April 23rd, April 30th, 1975. On April 23rd, we had all gathered around the radio in the living room at 3:07:18. Our hearts beating together. President Nguyễn Văn Thiệu voice came through the static, broken and bitter. He spoke of betrayal, of abandonment, of the Americans who had once promised never to leave, but who now were packing their helicopters and ships. Then, in a trembling voice, he announced his resignation, handing power to Vice President Trần Hương. Father's face had been pale that night. He had believed Thiệu would stand until the end. He had believed his words when he once swore he would stay with the army, with the country, never give up. But now Thiệu was gone, and within days he had fled the land entirely. For father, it was not only the resignation of the president, it was the collapse of everything he had trusted. For that moment, something shifted inside our home. The shield we thought we had, even the fragile one, vanished. What remained was fear. April 23rd, 1975. The TV became our lifeline. Every morning, father switched it on before breakfast. Reports came of the provinces falling one after another, of soldiers retreating in chaos, and endless columns of refugees filling the roads. At the table, no one had the strength to speak. Mother stirred her tea and stared at it as if searching for answers. The clink of chopsticks on bones sounded sharper than usual, as though even small noises had become unbearable. Only chị Tâm tried to bring some steadiness. She returned from her work with whispers of helicopters lifting people away, of lists being made at the embassy. She could have gone with them. She had the connections, the right to claim safety. But when father looked at her with weary eyes, she only shook her head. "How can I leave?" she whispered. "I cannot abandon father. I cannot abandon you all. If I go, who will stay beside his side?" Her words warmed us, but they also deepened in ache. She was hope, yet she was also proof of chance we were letting slip away. April 24th, 1975. That afternoon, we heard jets overhead, followed by dawn thugs. Smoke rose faintly beyond the rooftops. News spread quickly. Biên Hòa Air Base had been bombed. The thought chilled us. If Biên Hòa was under attack, Saigon itself was already a battlefield in waiting. That evening, Mother lit a candle. The soft glow of candles reflected in her tearful eyes. She prayed not only for survival, but for guidance in the darkness that lay ahead. April 25th, 1975. The street outside grew tense. Many shops were shuttered. Neighbors spoke only in whispers, their faces tight with fear. Families carried bundles of clothing and boxes of rice in and out, preparing for flight. That evening, we listened on the radio again. President Trần Hương voice wavered as he urged calm, insisting Saigon would endure. But even through the static, it was clear he did not believe his own words. The father stood at the window after broadcast, staring out into the dark street. "It is finished," he whispered. None of us dare reply. April 26, 1975. The threat thickened. Every knock at the gate sent our hearts racing. Every airplane overhead made us flinch. Late afternoon, a pair of ragged soldiers walked slowly down our street. Their uniforms were torn, their rifles slung loosely. One stopped at our gate and, in the broken voice, asked for civilian clothes. He wanted to vanish, to escape the shame of wearing a uniform that no longer protected him. Father brought him an old shirt and trousers. The soldier bowed his head, his eyes moist. God bless you, he whispered before disappearing down the alley. We stood in silence long after he left. Pity, fear, and shame mixed in our hearts. That night, Father gathered us in the living room. His voice was heavy. The days ahead will test us more than ever. Whatever happens, we must stay together. Do not run, do not panic, and pray. The house grew after his words. Outside, the city flickered with lights, but inside we felt like a family under siege. April 27, 1975. The morning air carried smoke. The city was restless, louder than usual, yet somehow hollow. The radio confirmed our fear. Rocket fire had struck near Tân Sơn Nhất Airport. The sound of artillery was no longer far away. It was here in the belly of Saigon. Neighbors rushed past our gate, carrying bundles, shouting that bombs were falling at the airport. We watched them vanish, our bodies frozen. Father's voice broke. There's nowhere to go. If we leave, we die on the road. If we stay, we wait for death here. April 28, 1975. The unthinkable happened. We woke to the roar of jets and the thunder of explosions inside the city. Later, we learned that Nguyễn Thành Trung, a pilot who had defected, has bombed the presidential palace itself. The floor shook, the glass rattled in the windows. We huddled in fear as dust fell from the ceiling. On the radio, panic voices confirmed the attacks. That night, the helicopters never stopped. We could hear them rushing above the rooftops, ferrying the chosen away. Each thump of the blaze felt like door closing on us. All eyes turned to Chị Tâm. She could have gone, perhaps even that very night, but she sat with Father, her hand clasped over his. I cannot leave you, she said. I cannot run while you remain. Her loyalty was both a blessing and a wound. April 29, 1975, Saigon collapsed. The early morning rockets fell on Tân Sơn Nhất. Black smoke climbed into the sky. Inside 307-18, we clung to the radio. The announcers were breathless. Their words tangled. The embassy was being swarmed by thousands. Helicopters lifted endlessly from the roof. By evening, the new President Nguyễn Văn Thiệu addressed the nation, pleading for a ceasefire, calling for peace. His voice was trembling, resigned. Outside, gunfire echoes through the streets. Inside, we sat in silence, waiting for what we knew must come. April 30th, 1975 morning. The dawn was grey, lifeless. The city had fallen quiet, as though bracing for the end. At 10:24 a.m., the radio carried Min's surrender. His voice was weary, final. The Republic of Vietnam has ceased to exist. Father bowed his head into his hands. His shoulders shook silently. Mother held his arm, her tears streaming. No one spoke. The words hung in the room like smoke, impossible to breathe, impossible to escape. The tanks, near midday, the earth trembled. The crowd of engines filled the street. On the street, we saw them. Green tanks rolling through Saigon, red flags waving above. Soldiers sat atop them, rifles in hand, eyes sharp and cold. Neighbors peeked from behind half-shut gates, some waved timidly, already surrendering in their hearts the feeling of loss. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Outside, tanks patrolled, soldiers shouted, and the city groaned under its new name, Ho Chi Minh City. Inside, the house was still, every sound muted by the weight of loss. It was not only fear that crushed us, it was grief so vast it had no end, the grief of losing a nation, a home, a future, a grip of watching the sky itself change color and realizing nothing would ever be the same. By nightfall, Saigon was no longer Saigon, and in the house 30718 we sat together, silent, stunned, like orphans of history. This is the end of chapter 19, to be continued. Want to know about the stories of the